Woman's Essence magazine for and about powerful women is so grateful to have Kymberlyn Lacy return back to our show for her third interview. And this time is to talk about her health journey. I recall when I first interviewed Kymberlyn in 2015, she was very transparent about how she overcame obstacles to obtain her success in interior design. And she came back to our show in 2023 to let us know that she's embarking on a new adventure in writing a children's book. Now, 2024, she's coming back to share her story about what she has been going through health wise. I'm so glad that you're back on our show. And I know this is going to be hard for you, but we are here supporting you all the way. This is something that's this is a serious matter. And please, share with us what's been happening with you since we last interviewed back in 2023.
Ooh, Claire. So, I've been on your show like quite a bit, but I don't know, you already have me in tears. Just like hearing um, you talk about it is it's something, I'm a very private person, and
Mm-hmm.
it's easy for me to talk about business and successes and strategies in business, but to be transparent and allow someone into, my life, my personal space, that's really really hard for me because I am a very very private person. So, but I think it's something that I need to share with people. So I'll start. But back in June of 2022, I was driving the car. So I would say my journey probably started a little bit before then, but I didn't really pay attention. I was, busy being a mom and a wife and a business owner and a mentor. And so I was putting everyone first but myself. And so I would put self on the back burner to make sure everybody else was taken care of. But there were signs and signals that happened before then. And it was like, oh, it's nothing. And so at the time, I was living part time in LA, and I started experiencing nosebleeds. And so nosebleeds, and there was blood coming out of my ears, and then I would cough up blood, but I ignored it. And so that was the first sign and signal. But in June 2022, I was working on probably one of the most difficult projects that I've ever worked on. And so there was a lot of resistance from the client, and then there was a lot of um, it was just different. And so I didn't, listening and knowing how God works, that was God
Mm-hmm.
allowing that client to put that kind of pressure on me, or the client becoming irate. And so I I was driving, taking my daughter. My oldest daughter was in the car with me, and I literally was leaving the house, and we were going somewhere, and I blacked out, just totally blacked out. And so when I came to myself, I blacked out twice while driving, and had not my daughter been in the car with me, the car was veered over to the woods that were adjacent to us. And so during the time that I blacked out, I lost mobility on the left side of my body, where I couldn't walk, and so my vital signs and everything, they were not well, and I was experiencing chest pains. And so during that time, I also experienced some medical, I guess you would say, I wasn't notified like what was going on. And so they ordered, after staying in the hospital for a few days, I think it was almost a week, they sent me home. And so I, um, at this point, I'm like, something's not right. It was pretty much um, volumized, per se. And so I went to, they ordered physical therapy. And so I went to the physical therapist, and the physical therapist informed me, he said, I'm afraid to touch you. And I was like, why? And he said, because you have a tumor on your brainstem. And I was like, no, you have the wrong patient. And I was like, I'm fine, I'm healthy, this vibrant person. And he said, no, ma'am. He said, is your name Kymberlyn Lacy? And I said, yes. And he said, you mean you don't know about it? And I was like, no, no one told me. I was discharged from the hospital. No one told me. He said, yeah, you have a tumor that's sitting on your brainstem. And so at that very moment, um,
Take your time.
so I'm a very proactive person. So at that very moment, um, I called my husband at the time, and I let him know, hey, um, I have a tumor that's on my brainstem.
Kymberlyn, may I ask a question, Kymberlyn? Now, how did you feel the fact that the physical therapist was the one who informed you of your diagnosis of having the brain tumor, not your doctor, not when you were at the hospital for a week and no one came to you and spoke with you and explained to you what was going on and the kind of test you were having, and then this was the result. So no one did that for you?
No. And so I felt devalued, not cared for. Um, but at that moment, I had to choose whether or not I sue for failure to inform, or do I fight for my life? And so I decided it was more important for me to fight for my life versus having a malpractice lawsuit. And so I did not pursue the lawsuit. Um, and as time progressed, um, I went through brain surgery. And so at the hospital that I was at the time, um, they there was a lot of information that was not told to me, but I started going downhill. And at this same hospital, what I realized, or what I was informed, he was a radiologist. He informed me not to take radiation that close to the brain. He said you wouldn't live. This is off record that he told me that. And so I did go through brain surgery. And so this hospital, they said, and I told you, I said I wasn't going to cry. This hospital, they pursued different hospitals push different things. And so the radiologist off record told me that he wouldn't, after the brain surgery wasn't successful, he said he wouldn't take radiation that close to the brain. And so I have a daughter who's a surgical nurse, and based on her recommendation, I moved to a different hospital. However, when I made it to that hospital produced, they were pushing surgery. We want you to have surgery. However, if I would have had surgery, um, I wouldn't have any quality of life. I would basically have to have 24-hour, around the clock care.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be able to talk. I wouldn't be able to walk. I wouldn't be able to sing. I wouldn't be able to move. It's different things that I wouldn't be able to do. And so I had to get everybody out of my ear. I went through a period where, and still, I'm still there. I really hear from God. And so um, I stopped taking, I went on like a really deep spiritual journey. I stopped taking phone calls. It was just myself and God. I didn't allow anyone else to have access to me. And so I asked God what to do. And He said, look for the best physician in the country. And so at the time, the best physician, the best neurosurgeon was in Sweden. And so I have a best friend who her life purpose is international travel. And so we were vetting the physician and we were getting ready to go to Sweden. And I ended up getting a phone call from a hospital. It was 7.5 hours away. They had accepted me. But when I arrived to the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
um, there was so much confirmation there. Um, the physician who we sourced out in Sweden was actually on my board at the hospital that was 7.5 hours away from my home. And so um, I can't say or give credit to any physician, um, but I know things had gotten worse. I gotten worse. I was back in November of last year. It's very funny that we're having
Mm-hmm.
this the end of October, but November of last year, I spent 26 days in the hospital. I was basically, I was told to call my next of kin because I wasn't going to make it. According to the doctors, they said I wasn't going to make it out. Uh, and so some of the things, all my major organs began to shut down. My kidney, my liver, my spleen. And I remember um, laying there, um, and I had gone out, and I remember blacking out, and I remember asking God, which I never complain. I'm not a complainer, but I asked God, what would you have me to do? I'm a by nature, I guess I'm a fighter. I've learned that I'm a fighter.
I see.
Um, I've learned how strong I was. And so he said, if you, he told me, he said, you have to share your story. I'll heal you, but you have to share. And I told him, I'm in compromise. I'm in a compromising situation. I didn't just say yes. I said, God, you know how private I am. I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I have the strength to share my story. Um, and so here I am. I guess this is my share. But I got a phone call from, I'll say her name, Chantel Neal. She didn't know that I was in ICU and she called my phone. I asked God during that time for a sign, and she called me and she said, "Hey, can you speak at my women's conference?" she said, "You just been on my heart and you've been on my mind for a minute." And she said, "Hey, can you speak at my women's conference?" So I didn't say much to her. I said, "Okay," but that was his confirmation
Mm-hmm.
to me, and so here I am sharing my story with you. And I said I wasn't gonna cry. I'm usually stronger
No,
than
it's all
this.
right. It's all right to let your
Yeah,
emotions out because what you're going through right now, it's really draining for you because you didn't get the support in the hospital in the first place, you know, and you're finding out your diagnosis from the physical therapist, and then your journey begins to the point where all you want to do is get healthier again, and God was always with you from the beginning, guiding you to finding out what's best for you, and that's having faith. And you didn't have any other surgery but the first one, the first brain surgery. That was it.
so I had the first brain surgery.
Mm-hmm.
That was back in September of
Of
2020.
2020,
Yeah, September of 2022. So I had gone
2022.
through, yes, I had gone through quite a lot. And so in this process or period, a couple of months after that, wasn't just the brain tumor. 7 nodes were discovered in my thyroid. There were 2 nodes discovered in my lungs. There were 2 nodes discovered in my breast. And then there were 3 nodes that were found in a different area. And so I, I just I was taken back, but I'm not a complainer. I'm a very positive person. And I said, God, you told me you were going to heal me. And so during this process of everything going on, it was just news after news after news after news. And I just cried out to God and I said, well, God, you told me you were going to heal me. And so um, it was a lot of hits, I guess, from the physicians or when I would go to appointments. And then my health is started going, and I'm a pretty active person, pretty healthy. I was, 100% alkaline, if that makes sense. And
Mm-hmm.
so I, I eat pretty healthy. I lost 100 pounds prior to, um, and so I didn't understand, but all I could say was, God, I trust you. God, I trust you. I I don't know what you're doing, but I trust you. And so the brain tumor, there's 1 in 8 million people who um, develop brain tumors. And
Mm-hmm.
so the tumor that I have is one, according to the doctors, is one of the rarest forms. They've never seen anything like it. Um,
And they couldn't tell you what caused
According
it.
to the doctors, I had genetic testing done, so an extensive amount of testing completed. And so I learned that if we divide our head, the this part, so the right side of your face and head, um, and even down to the back. So we're talking, the entire head and back, the front and the back of the head, the top of your face on the right hand side, if we split our face, that is your father's father side. The bottom half of the right side of your face is your father's mother side of the family. The left side of your face even back to that's including your skull, your teeth represents your mother's father's side, and the bottom half of your face represents your mother's father's side.
Mm-hmm.
And according to uh, my physicians, um, they were thinking that the brain tumor stemmed from my mother's side of the family, just from the entry point. It also sits on the bulb of my carotid artery,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it was the entry point of it, and where it sits on my brain stem from my mother's side. And so, because as a result of what our ancestors went through with slavery, with other, you know, things that happen in our bloodlines, there's no record or history of it. But they, according to my physicians, they think it stems from my mother's side. However, there's no record of it because our records weren't kept. And so after the genetic testing, they asked me, did anyone from my mother's side of the family, did they have any blackouts? Did they have any, like, a sudden death? According to the doctors, it was their prediction, like, they don't even want me to have a surprise birthday party, right? Their prediction was that I would die a sudden death, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what they've been expecting me to do, but I still get to be here. But they are thinking that it stemmed from my mother's side of the family. I know I'm different, Claire. I know um, God has called me for something special, but I did not realize it until my daughters were going through therapy with me. I had to, during this time period, which nobody knows, but I lost my ability to walk. I lost my ability to talk. I was told I would never be able to walk, be able to sing again. And so I went through an intensive amount of physical therapy, occupational therapy, vocal therapy.
After your
Um,
first surgery, you went through all that, right?
no, ma'am, this was back in November 2022 of last year. I went into a crisis mode and my health started going downhill
2023 last year.
2023 of last year. So it was
Mm-hmm.
after the first surgery. And so um, they were unable to remove the tumor. And so, as a result of it still being there, um, it put me in a crisis situation. And so, my doctor, I have a team of like 56 doctors. I know this seems very
Wow.
weird, but my physician, my primary physician, who's like the chief on my team, he let my daughters know. He told them, he said, your mom is, she's really special. He said she's different. And so he said, when I first met her, I read her chart and then I saw her and she looked nothing like what her chart says. Um, as a result of, like, no one knows, but as a result of, having the nodes that are here, it's affected like every area of my body has been affected, if that makes sense. And so you're going through the process, but to you know, hear my physician, let my daughters know, um, God has his hand on your mom. He said your mom is truly a miracle. And he let them know she's never, through any appointment, she's never complained. Um, she's always upbeat and positive. Say your mom is rare. He said, as rare as what she's going through. He said, your mom is rare. And so to hear that, it just, I don't know, it was encouraging,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
No, no, makes sense. Now, where are you right now when it comes to your diagnosis, your health?
Um,
What?
so, so I live, as a result of everything that's going on.
Mhm.
No one ever knows. No one knows. But I live part time in a different area because I needed to be closer to my medical team in case I have a crisis. They are able to stabilize me a lot more. And I will, be transparent. Um, where I was or where I'm from, I'm from Arkansas. Um, they didn't have the capacity to care for me there in the way that I needed to be.
Mhm.
And so, under those physicians' care, uh, when if you have a brain tumor, you are more receptive to having a stroke. No one knows this, but I've had two strokes, and I've had two two seizures as well.
Mhm.
So I have to I had to do what's best for me, and so I live part time now, part time Arkansas, and then I live in a different area for medical care.
Did your husband also follow you to your part-time location?
No, no, so it's my daughters. Uh, so I had my daughters. They are they're with me. So my daughter, that's a surgical nurse, she travels back and forth often. And my 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 oldest daughter, she was by my side 100%
Mhm. Mhm.
during recovery. I had an
Mhm.
intensive amount of recovery well, from last November up until uh, I didn't really turn the corner. It was probably March of last year when I started turning the corner, walking on my own, um, talking. And so, my girls, I've drawn a lot of strength from them, but um, what I have instilled in them, a lot of times, I guess the old me per se, and I said I was not gonna cry. I've cried this whole interview, but the old me, I was more so about leaving them um, a legacy of I have to get a house, to make sure, they have houses and investment properties, and I collect artwork. And so it was more so trivial things, I would say. But I know 100% that I have left my girls with a level of faith that is unmatched. And so uh, when I see them, reading their word or being involved with, positive groups or trying to find, purpose in their life, I think that's more impactful than things because you can't take things with you, right? None of that even matters. And so my children, my son, my girls, my daughters, um, they've been my strength. Uh, my son, remember him. He made sure he was there by my side the days that I spent 26 days in ICU. He left
Mhm.
his job be by my side, and that meant the world. That meant the world to me for him to do that. And so he was there during the time. I think it was time for me, and I'm a very strong little person, um, and we've, he was there with me when they said, Miss Lacy, we're gonna need you to go out on the walker. And I looked at him and I was like, I'm not walking out of here on a walker. And I literally, with the good hand, my right arm, my right hand was stronger. And he saw me literally like throw the walker across the room. And I said, God, God didn't call me. He didn't call me to this. And, this is not the end. And so for him, um, for them to be there, um, it's made all the difference. But for them to see the changes in their life, no, they're not me, but they
Mm-hmm.
see the fight that's in me. They see the resilience
Mm-hmm.
in me. They see the faith that's there. And that's impactful. And so I've seen it spread throughout all of their lives. They're not perfect children, but I've seen them grow and change as a result of my journey. And that's all that a mother could ever ask for. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm very proud of them. Um, my son, I remember when I told him, I'm not going out of this hospital on a walker. He said, how are you going to go, Mom? I said, well, I'm going to walk. So he carried me. He was on one side carrying me, and the nurse was on the other side carrying me. And so just that tenacity, um, and determination, that's there to fight. But I know I'm going to live and not die, even though, according to the doctors, the brain tumor is still there. But then it's like, do you still trust God? God is like, do you still trust me? Do you still trust me? And so I trust God over medicine. And so I can't give any physician, yeah, he uses physicians, but where I am in the position that I'm in, when the doctors have told me numerous times, there's nothing else that we can do for you, I gotta trust him because I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was not, there was a lot of times that um, I literally went out. Yeah, one example would be my blood pressure, as a result of it sitting, the tumor sitting on my brain stem. It affects my vagus nerve, which affects your blood pressure. My blood pressure
Mm-hmm.
has well below numbers, and yeah, 20 over 40, but I'm still here.
20 over 40. So do you check your blood pressure every day?
I have to check it regularly. I have a team that comes to me, a medical team, where I was getting overwhelmed with so many doctor's appointments. It's like a full time job. And so, yeah, so there's a nurse that actually comes and checks my numbers. Sometimes I'm critical. So during this, all through this period, there are times that I'm hospitalized, but I'm so positive. I'm so upbeat. No one ever knows. My
No.
parents.
I
Yeah,
I would have never known unless you didn't. If you didn't call me, I would have never known and tell me what was
yeah,
going on. Even
yes.
looking at you right now on the screen, you look great. You look beautiful.
Thank you. And so, my parents, of course, I let my parents know, but my parents know how private I am, so no one ever knows, you know, what I'm going through. Now they know, but
Now they will know once I post
now they
this.
know. And so, but I'm still here, if that makes sense. I'm still here. And so I guess what makes the brain tumor even rare, it's my carotid artery is um displaced. and my internal and external jugular veins are pinched. And so, yeah, but I still, that's how I know um, God has, I'm rare. I'm still here, Claire. Yeah. But God has so much in store for me, um, if that makes sense. And so it's not my end, if that makes sense. And so I see myself at first, I was getting stuck in it because I am the person, if you tell me, I've always been the fixer, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Yeah. And so um, when God ties your hands and you have to totally rely on Him, if that makes sense. And um, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, "Whose report are you going to believe? Are you going to trust me? Or are you going to believe everything that the physicians say?"
Mhm.
And so I have made a choice to trust God.
And then now, we're on our phones. That or I won't. Well, not with your hands. Like, for instance, like if you have a computer, you want the computer to be where it's eye level. But yeah, and then for your
It
hands,
matches the sticks.
yeah, your hands kind of down here, just rested so that you're not like all the way down here or all the way up here.
Next 10, make it really quiet. No, no slamming and bang.
Are there some things on your list that you want to
Good.